Good evening. As it is 6 p.m., I will call the City Council meeting of September 7th, 2021 to order. I am presiding this evening as Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor Severance absent. We will have an invocation led by Pastor Kevin Scott of Seventh-day Adventist Church, and then please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance afterwards.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity, Lord, to be at this council meeting today. I pray, Lord, that you will be with those across our country, Lord, that have been affected by Hurricane Ida. I pray for those that are in far-off lands of Afghanistan that have been affected by the recent situation there, Lord. And Father, I want to pray for all of us who have been affected by COVID. I pray for our leaders that they will make wise decisions concerning this. And I pray tonight, Lord, for our council members, for our local town here in Oak Harbor, that you will give them wisdom and guidance tonight, that you will help them to make the right decisions to best help our community here, Lord. Thank you again for all you do for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Due to COVID-19, this will be both a physical meeting location and a virtual meeting per Washington Proclamation 20-28. Due to the Governor Inslee's most recent order, masks are required for everyone in council chambers, regardless of vaccination status. City staff are participating via teleconference. Guests that are included in staff presentations will be excused from the Ring Central meeting at the conclusion of the agenda item as appropriate. Tonight's meeting may be viewed via YouTube. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem Munns.
I'm here.
Councilmember Heisen.
Present.
Councilmember Servadius.
Present.
Councilmember Mack.
Present.
Councilmember Goebel.
Present.
Councilmembers Wassinger and Wiesner have both requested to be excused.
With council members Wassinger and Wiesner have informed us they are not here and able to attend this evening, I will entertain a motion to excuse them, please. Councilman Heisen.
I move to excuse council members Wassinger and Wiesner.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Councilman Heisen and Councilman Goebel to excuse our two members. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? And did we get Mr. Mack's vote?
Yes, Councilmembers Mack, hand is raised.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Are there any suggested changes to the agenda? I don't see any hands up, then we will, hearing none, the agenda is approved as presented. Presentation and honors, there are none this evening. Citizens' comment period. Citizens may comment on subjects of interest not listed on the agenda or items listed on the consent agenda. Citizens may also comment on corresponding agenda items. In this hybrid meeting format, citizens can attend and give comment in person or via online comment in the form at www.oakharbor.org/public comment or email the city clerk at jlindsay@oakharbor.org prior to 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting, or call 360-279-4571 to leave a voicemail to be played during the council meeting. call to leave a voicemail after 5 p.m. on Friday preceding the meeting and prior to 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting. When leaving a voicemail for public comment, state your first and last name clearly and limit the comments to 3 minutes. Any public comments received since our last council meeting were forwarded to council. Comments pertaining to an agenda item will be displayed with that item. Comments not on agenda topics will be displayed at this time. I'd like to note that Fire Chief Merrill has already responded directly to the comments regarding fire safety. If you look, you can see the comments if you wish to read them with us.
Mayor Pro Tem, we also have 2 people in the audience this evening that have requested to give public comment on items not on the agenda. The first is Mr. Joe Cardinal.
All right, Mr. Cardinal, the microphone is to your left. You can just stand above it. You don't have to kneel down. It will pick up your sound. Thank you.
I'm just about that tall. Madam Mayor and City Council members, I'm here representing the Oak Harbor residents, I'm sorry, Harborview Mobile Home Park residents. Their concern and mine is the potential for a fire hazard in the field adjacent to the park. I met with Chief Merrill a week ago today for about 35 minutes or so, and it was a good meeting. We agreed on some things, disagreed on many, but the concern of these senior citizens in the park is almost deafening. They are scared to death. And I'm quite frankly shocked that the city would allow this eyesore of these mounds of logging debris to be there. People coming up SR 20, it's the first thing they see. It's just a total eyesore. They have these mounds of logging debris have substantially lowered in height, length, and width, which to me says they're decomposing. And decomposition invites heat, possible spontaneous fire. The grasses all around it are up to 4 feet high, or 3.5 to 4 feet high. And I've got a couple of things from the University of California, Oregon, and Colorado that says these grasses should be cut to a minimum of about 8 inches, which leaves plenty of root left to combat any erosion that might be happening and substantially lower the fire risk. I don't think that's a lot to ask to have that done. Now, I understand that these rocks would have to be moved. My wife actually showed me in the back of our house that our slope is slowly deteriorating into the a field. And this is due to the backhoes smashing these stumps. And these backhoes were within, I've got pictures of them, within 6 to 10 feet of our house. These mounds have been there for a good 18 months. And according to the Washington State Legislature, 76.04.650, these mounds should have been moved out as their a progression of the construction moved along. So if they were moving along, they got a full thing. This should have been shipped out. And same thing, there's now 5 mounds out there that have been there for a year and a half. And just like I said, I've got a bunch of people up there, some in their 90s, that are scared to death. If something happened, these mobile homes, for all intents and purposes, are tinder boxes. And so is this grass. And they couldn't get out of the way if something happened. The developer, I'm told, is Scott Thompson. He seems to have a lot of money. And it would certainly be a good business move to have those mounds moved off-site and chipped if that's what he wanted. And to have the grass mowed and the rocks moved, instead of having loss of property or, in the worst case, loss of life. I think it would behoove him to do some of these things. And it just seems to make sense to me. That's all I got to say.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, our next speaker is Cynthia Mason.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here to represent the Oak Harbor Music Festival, and on behalf of the board, I wanted to thank our incredible community and the city and staff and police department, fire department, and all the hundreds of volunteers it takes to pull off our event. And it was a great weekend, and I hope everybody attended and enjoyed themselves. Thanks.
That concludes those who signed up to speak, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate you all taking the time to come down here to City Hall. It means a lot to see a face in the audience. Thank you. Mayor's comments. Oak Harbor Music Festival. Thank you to Cynthia Mason for her leadership and all who participated in the festival this year. From all accounts, it was a great success. We were moored on our boat, and we heard it perfectly. Even broken banjo in the afternoon on Sunday. So anyway, it was very good. I could tell it wasn't quite what we've had in the past, but it was wonderful, and thank you very much. Back to school. We have a new teacher on our council. Oak Harbor Public School resumed classes on September 9th. I want to welcome all students and teachers back to the classroom this year. Please don't forget to use caution in school zones to help all of our students and teachers get used to school and home safely. Upcoming events: Woodby Island Marathon, Sunday, September 12th. Finish line is Windjammer Park. Any council members wishing to participate, please let Lisa or Julie know. Please note State Route 20 will be closed from 7 a.m. to 7:45 a.m. from Rosario Road and Pass Lake to Duncan Road. The highway will also have a single lane closure from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. prior to the race. Flaggers will control traffic. Audit Entrance Conference. Prior to our meeting this evening, the State Auditor Office held their entrance conference to review the areas they will be examining in our annual audit. The audit staff is performing the audit virtually. They will schedule an exit conference at the conclusion of the audit. They also reminded us that they had sent us a packet. So if you look that over, if you have any questions, they left contact if you would like to send it in. And that went very well.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
I believe we may have missed the consent agenda.
Oh. Oh, we did. Thank you. Sorry. Consent agenda. We will now move the consent agenda. Staff has presented the list consent agenda items, all of which include the meeting packet. We note that Nancy Diamond, if she'd like to stand up. Thank you. And Krista, is it Mayhew? Is she here? Oh, she was supposed to come. Are both in, were to be in attendance for appointments to the Park Board. We appreciate you volunteering. Are there any objections or changes to the consent agenda?
Is
Curtis Adams here? Nope. I'm not seeing a hand from Mr. Mack. All right, hearing none, the items are approved as presented. All right, Mayor's comments. I had a question for Mr. Oborn. It has to do with the email from Mick Munkins to the council. Usually, with Council Rule 6, we can add things or suggest things be moved from the agenda, and the mayor can also do this. And I just want to know why he's asking, when generally it's the city administrator that finds out there's a problem or not enough information or something, and I'm just wondering why it came from him, because you're supervising everybody. So I was just questioning, I didn't think we had changed our rules. Mr. Ober,
Are you ready for a comment?
please, go ahead.
Yeah. I guess normally items are controlled and put on by staff, so it's easier for us to move around. This was an item placed on very specifically on consent agenda by council. So my feeling is that this is owned by council, and we did confer with our city attorney, and he can help us with the protocol here. So since council placed it on the agenda, our opinion is that council needs to move it. So certainly you don't have to follow our recommendations, and Mick Munkin is also here, brings in a wealth of knowledge as our interim public works director and can speak to that issue. And our city attorney, if you want to comment some more on that, you're certainly welcome to help with the protocol and help with the question of why we did what we did. And I think Grant Weed is here.
Mr. Weed, do you want to add any comments to that?
What I can add, and good evening, everyone. You do have your Council Rule 6, which has to do with the preparation of the agenda. And it reads that an agenda for regular meetings is to be prepared by the mayor and sent out to all council members, but that it does not preclude the council from considering matters in addition to those that are on the agenda. So council essentially controls the agenda, and if council wants to add something, it can by vote. It can also delete something if it wishes to by a similar vote.
I guess a question I have for you, Mr. Grant, it was Motion was made by a council member, and it was unanimously voted on to have it on the 21st of September. So we would have to have another vote then if we wish to move it, if there seems to be a problem with getting all the information in.
Well, my understanding was that there was a motion made to provide a letter of approval. And after staff met and went over the specifics of the issue here, the council received the email that it did explaining that there are some issues associated with the request. So the request was to first hold a workshop and then consider where the council wants to go from there. But if that is excuse me, if that is not the desire of council, it can certainly change what comes on the agenda for the 21st to be more in line with its wishes.
All right, thank you very much. Council comments. Councilman Heisen.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I want to let anybody who hasn't already seen it know that Mayor Bob posted a very sweet message to the community on the city's YouTube channel. So if anybody isn't following the City of Oak Harbor on YouTube, I highly encourage you to do so. Just type in City of Oak Harbor and our channel should pop up. And the mayor posted a real quick, like 2-minute video, a little message to the community, an update on his health, and kind of a thank you for the outreach. And I thought it was very sweet, so check it out. And I wanted to thank everyone who's here tonight. It is really good to see faces. And as I'm looking around the room, I'm seeing lots of volunteers. We've got new park board members, music festival planning committee members, arts commission members. We have a member of the school board, and we've got, just citizens here expressing their concern, paying attention to what's going on in the community, and taking time out of their evening to be here. And that is really, that is the lifeblood of this city, is volunteers and citizens, and people chiming in and giving of their time and their effort and their energy. So I just wanted to say thank you for being here. It's very much appreciated, and all the time that you spend not in this room, but at meetings and reading and doing all of your things. It kind of makes our world go round. So thank you very much, sincerely. That's it.
Thank you, Councilman Heisen. Councilman Servadius.
Thank you. I'm glad I let Councilmember Heisen go first because I could never be that eloquent. I just wanted to say thank you to all you volunteers. So Tara does a good job. I just want to circle back, if we could, to that. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for bringing up the consent agenda item regarding the tree trimming that one of our citizens had sent in inquiring about. Is Mr. Monken on the line? I have not met him. I know he's new to us for an interim public works director.
I am on the line.
Oh, hello. Nice to meet you virtually. I have no problem. Obviously, there's some great points here that were raised, and we need to go through those and make sure we're doing the right thing. Is there any reason we need to put it out to the October 27th workshop? My desire, I guess, and I'm happy to make a motion, would be to shift it to the September, if I'm looking at my calendar correctly, the 22nd. Correct me if I'm wrong. Julie, would be our next, or September workshop to talk about that.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, whatever comes out of that discussion will generate probably further discussion or research that may or may not be needed. It just seems like if we put it out until the end of October, that's then taking it into November, and that might be a good time to trim trees. I'm not an arborist. Is there any reason not to put on the September agenda, Mr. Monken, to discuss some of those issues? The September workshop?
Council, are you able to hear me right now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Are you hearing me right now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Mac.
Oh, great. The reason why we asked to do it to the 27th is we need to do some researching on this and to make sure we don't know exactly how long the time will take. Title report is going to be something that's going to be important, but we also need to check documents when that property was purchased to see if there may be some record of conditions that may allow or prohibit any of the work. If we do put it on September, we may have some of the information, but we are concerned that it wouldn't provide enough time to get all of that done, including the title report.
All right, thank you. So do you need me then, Mr. O'Born? Do you need a motion, or can we just carry that to the October 27th workshop?
Yeah, if you could, it would be best that you make a motion to amend your motion, and that way we have it on the record, and that way we make sure we're following the will of the council.
I move to place the, I gotta give it a title, Scalaricus tree trimming agenda item on our October 27th workshop.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Servatius and a second by Ms. Goebel to postpone the treetop trimming to our October 27th workshop. 27th. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Councilmember Mack's hand is raised.
All right, and there are no opposed. All right, that will be moved or suggested to be moved to the 27th workshop. All right, other council comments? We had a busy week in town. Ms. Goebel, please.
Yeah, just to echo what Councilmember Heisen and Councilmember Servatius had said, just thank you to all the volunteers in the room. You know, it's a thankless job at times, and school board members as well. I know it's been a challenging time to be an elected official. So I just want to say my sincerest thank you. And to the citizens in the room, it is important that we have your opinions. So I appreciate all of you for being here.
Councilman Mack, do you have any comments you would like to add to this evening, please?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I do not have any comments at this time, other than the fact that both my family and myself, we had a wonderful weekend, and also thanks everyone for participating in our music festival. Thank you.
All right, we will move on to number 8. Contracts and agreement, professional service agreement with Sculpture Northwest and gift agreement with the estate of George Drake for the Angel de la, I'll say it wrong, Rivelada, sort of.
I think that's good enough.
Sculpture. We will hear from the staff presentation on this item and then hear public comment prior to council discussion.
All right, thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening. Also, council. I'm Gideon Kaufman. I'm the city's archaeologist and also project coordinator for Arts Commission projects. I'm going to share my screen here, like always. There we go. Oop. Sorry about this. Gotta get it in presentation mode for y'all. There we go. Perfect. All right. So a little background. At the August 4th council meeting, council requested city staff to finalize any documentation needed to accept the sculpture as a gift. The PSA, the professional service agreement, that was signed by Sculpture Northwest July 22nd, 2021. And the gift agreement was signed by the estate of George Drake on August 30th, so a little over a week and a day ago, and also notarized. So Al Zimmerman is currently in Mexico, so he was able to find a notary down there and get things done and sent up to us. I also want to thank Therese Kingsbury for doing a lot of the email work and communication between Mr. Zimmerman and the city. She really did a wonderful job of that. Regarding the engineering inspection, as I mentioned last time, if the welds are approved by a qualified engineer, then a sculpture will continue to move forward with the installation, design, geotechnical testing, the permitting, and the eventual installation. If the wells are not approved, then these agreements will be null and void. There are some forthcoming actions, of course. I do have a draft motion. It's also the same language in your packet. Mr. Weed was the one who put that together. So request a motion to sign the professional service agreement, also the gift agreement. From there, the sculpture will be sandblasted so the wells can be inspected by a professional engineer. That's between Sculpture Northwest and Materials Testing Consulting. If the wells are A-OK and stamped by an engineer, then an ordinance will be drafted by probably Mr. Weed and Anna to accept the gift. So it's ordinance 1934. Other forthcoming actions will be operations maintenance plan. Sculpture Northwest will develop that. Working with parks, since it is slated to be in a park windjammer, the O&M budget will be developed by parks, and I'll be working with parks and also the Arts Commission regarding funding the operations and maintenance of the sculpture. Once the sculpture is installed, then a resolution will be drafted, and that will be paying the estate the $35,000. So that's when everything is said and done regarding the installation. We do have Therese Kingsbury, I know, in the audience from Sculpture Northwest. Richard Nash is listening live. But they were just instrumental in getting a lot of this work done. I want to give Teresa opportunity to talk if she'd like, and if not, that's quite all right too. Yes, no?
Gideon, I
All
think
right.
she's going to pause on that. All right?
Okay, sounds wonderful. Thank you, Pro Tem. And just a round of thank yous to City Council, the Arts Commission, and the estate of George Drake, Sculpture Northwest, and city staff. Just been instrumental in all the hard work they've done regarding this project and the decision making you folks make. Questions and discussion, and then I have the draft motion at the end of this slide. Oh, public comment, all right. Should I stop the screen share? Or Lisa's already took it over. Good job, Lisa.
City Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak tonight on this agenda item?
We do not, Mayor Pro Tem. We did receive a number of emails and a voicemail regarding this item, and they are displayed now.
Thank you. Everyone want to take a minute to refresh? I know we saw these in our packet, but just to refresh your memory.
Hi, yes, we're commenting on the meeting for tonight about the red sculpture. And we would also like to say that, yes, we live in Oak Harbor, well, the outskirts of Oak Harbor, and have lived here for 72 years. And we have never seen anything so god-awful ugly. So please do not waste all that money putting that god-awful sculpture up when you could take that money and make a cute little sculpture of the windmill. So please make the windmill instead of a ugly, ugly sculpture that has nothing to do with anything. If anything, it should go over there to the boat ramp and just be over there at the marina instead. It should not be in the park. We have been here for many, many years. Please listen to the people who live here and have been here longer than you. Do not put that up in the park. Put up a windmill if you have to waste our money. Or do nothing at all and just fix the roads. Thank you. So my vote is no for that god-awful, ugly thing.
That concludes the comments received since our last meeting, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Discussion from council members. Ms. Goebel.
Thank you, Mayor. This might be a question for Administrator Oborn or possibly from the Arts Commission. I was just seeking some clarification on how Arts Commission funds are to be spent. Just I feel like there's some need for clarification. What can be spent on art and what money is earmarked for art. So I was curious if Councilmember Oborn or someone from the Arts Commission could comment on that. Thank you.
Yeah, City Administrator Oborn, right? I'm not council member, so. Okay, are you hearing me? Yeah, okay. Just to give you a little background about the money, the City Council some time ago passed an ordinance, and I think it's 0.25% of your utility tax of 3 of the 4 utilities goes into a fund. It accumulates about $50,000 a year. When I first came here, it was only to be used for acquisition of art pieces, and there is some goals that go beyond that. I think, thank you, Lisa, for putting that up there and showing the ordinance. So we renamed it the Creative Arts Fund that allowed them to spend it on anything that's within their goals there. The council has always kept this on a short string on it, and any funds, the staff doesn't have any authority to spend it, only the council does. So everything has to be approved by the council. So that's why you see everything going through the council. We don't do a budget, we just do it on a project by project basis. So when you're doing this approval, you're going to approve the $35,000 expenditure that goes around of the arts fund money. And I think we do a monthly report on that when they do the council. And then if any other staff has any other details to add, I'd certainly welcome that. But I think I did my best in trying to kind of give you an overview of the uniqueness of this Creative Art Funds, where the funds come from, and how it's to be used.
I'd like to add a comment. I believe Mr. Weed could correct me, but the legislature said that when you have a capital project, you have to put so much money away for art. The problem with how that was written was King County and Seattle ended up with sculptures or murals behind big fences that you couldn't see because it had to be placed on or in the grounds of the capital project. Marjorie Height, who was our attorney at the time, went through and we found out that we could say where it would be seen. Like when we repair a water line, then the sculpture was supposed to be with the water line. So it just didn't make sense that you're spending money to enhance the community and beauty, but it wasn't fitting. And so we were able to alter it to fit our city. And so that money goes into the art fund. And we can use that as they find pieces or suggestions, and now it can be used for, I believe, some maintenance. Mr. Weed, am I wrong on this, or can you add other comments, please?
Absolutely. Yes, there is a state statute that provides for dedication for a percentage of capital projects to be used toward art. At the same time, the statute allows what I guess I would refer to as a local option to refine where those funds are spent. And that's what Oak Harbor has done by adopting the ordinance that was on your screen for a few minutes ago. Your ordinance, as I read it, is fairly broadly written. There is a set of goals, but those goals are broad, so I think it leaves the council with a fair amount of discretion as to how, when, and where that funding is going to be used.
Mr. Weed, but this is not money we're taking out. It's been generated by whatever the cost, a certain percent of the capital project has to be put into this fund, if I'm not mistaken.
It's my understanding that that requirement was done away with, but I guess our city attorney can validate that.
I can actually, this is David Goldman, the finance
Go ahead,
director.
David.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to this. Currently, the Creative Arts Fund, Fund 115, it's funded by a one quarter percent of the 6.25% utility tax to foster the creative arts in the city. And I'm looking at the budget to actual for 2021, and I'm seeing that there's money coming in from that utility tax for water, sewer, solid waste, and island disposal, it says. So, and there's also a small amount of investor interest as well. So the total revenues that were budgeted for 2021, let's see, it's about $55,000 were budgeted, and we've received about $23,000 so far.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman, I appreciate it. Any other questions, Ms. Goebel?
Yes, so I just wanted, thank you for that explanation, Finance Director Goldman and Administrator Oborn. And I just further wanted to clarify, once that money's been earmarked for the Arts Commission, it can't be transferred or moved to other places for other uses in the city. Once it's earmarked for the Arts Commission, it stays there, correct?
That is correct. The percentage of tax that's levied must be used for the purpose of art.
Thank you. That concludes my questions at the moment.
Any other council members? Councilman Mack, any comments at this time? I see your hand.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I've been in town a long time. I have a lot of people come see me for various different things. I am a lifetime artist. I create one-of-a-kind pieces quite often, once a week or more. Now, I cannot support this item, and there's many reasons why. I stand by my statement earlier, springtime, summertime. This is not a good fit for our city. A good majority of residents do not approve of it or against it. And in my opinion, there's a high probability that the city of Oak Harbor could be challenged in a court for permanently placing a sculpture that is deemed religious on public property. So this is something that needs to be thought about. Now, getting to the dollars of this, $30,000 to $50,000 would make a nice windmill or an alternative piece that our residents approve. Thank you.
Mr. Weed, some people are referring to this piece as being religious, and I guess I've never I guess I don't see it as that.
Yeah, I don't have facts at my disposal one way or the other, whether that would be the case. That may seem to be the opinion of some. I have not been asked to research whether or not there would be an issue in this case, so I really don't have an opinion I can offer about that tonight. I certainly can look into it.
Thank you. Any other comments or Councilman Heisen?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I think the quote-unquote religious angle is being derived because it's named the angel of creativity, which just goes to show how subjective art is. Because when I first saw a comment about it was a religious sculpture, I was surprised too. I thought, where, how? So that just goes to show how subjective art can be. I think of it more of as a spirit of creativity, or the essence of creativity, or the idea of creativity. It's very vague. At least that's what I took away from it. So, obviously other people are gonna see different things. And, it's my non-legal expert opinion that if the city put up some kind of a sculpture or anything that was representative of a single specific religion, that might be problematic. But something as vague as an angel or a spirit, that's not promoting any one religion or the other. I think that anytime lawsuits are involved, it's when a city has representation of one religion over the other, and you have to give kind of everybody equal billing. And I think that, while I appreciate the concern, I think that is a bit of a stretch. So it's not a concern that I have of, the threatening of lawsuits or whatever is not something that I'm personally concerned about. I think that if that was a really obvious issue, that Mr. Weed would have pointed that out by now. And I appreciate Councilmember Goebel asking the question about the Arts Fund, because, God, this could have been a consent agenda item. We have discussed it to death, and we're still getting fix a pothole instead of put up a sculpture, or we need a windmill instead of a sculpture. And it's not either or. It's not possible to use art funds to fix a pothole, and it's not you can either have a windmill or a sculpture. That's just not how it works at all. And if anybody has questions about that or would like to discuss that, I'd be happy to do so. But that objection is just not it's not how it works. So there's something else that really, I've held my tongue on this, but it's really bothering me. Just personally, when I see comments that it doesn't represent our community or fit in our community or belong in our community, usually those comments are in the same paragraph as we need a windmill or Dutch heritage. And the very idea that Dutch heritage is the only thing that's worthy of representation in our community is really problematic at best. That's not okay. So while I do appreciate that there is Dutch heritage, that's not the only thing that we've got going on. We have a very diverse community, and I think that's one of the best things about it, honestly. And that has just really been kind of eating away at me, those comments, and I couldn't let that pass without comment. So I support this. This was done through a public process with a group of really committed citizens, and You know, again, art is subjective. I don't think we've ever put up a piece of public art that wasn't without some level of controversy. So, you know, if we waited till we got 100%, if, you know, 100% approval on every single thing, there would be no art in the city at all. And that is a fact. So, this absolutely has my support, and I will stop talking.
Any other comments or discussion? Would someone like to make the motion, please? All right, Councilman Heisen.
Do you want me to read out the entire, sorry, I'm muffled. Do you want me to read out the entire motion or just move to approve the motion as recommended? Mr. Weed, do you have a preference?
Grant, we can't hear you.
My apologies. Probably best for the record to read out the motion in this instance. That would be my recommendation.
I move that the City of Oak Harbor authorize the mayor to execute the gift agreement between the City of Oak Harbor and the estate of George Drake, and the professional service agreement between the City of Oak Harbor and Sculpture Northwest, subject to all terms and conditions contained in such agreements, including but not limited to a professional engineer approving the structural integrity of the sculpture. Upon performance of the agreement, the City Council will place an ordinance for final acceptance of the gift as required by RCW 35.21.100 on a future council agenda for action.
Second.
We have a motion as stated in our packet and a second, motion by Heisen and a second by Goebel. Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, all opposed? Did Mr. Mack vote? Mr. Mack, we didn't see your vote.
He's got a little X. That's a no.
Oh, okay, right there.
Yeah.
All right, we have 4 votes for and we have 1 vote against, so it passes. Other items for consideration: intent to commence annexation proceedings with Griswold property. Development Service Director David Cole will present this item, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the annexation request by the Griswold family. We talked about this in a workshop, and this involves 7.62 acres of property on Goldie Road. It's currently forested, and the applicant also came in to tell us a little bit about what they wanted to do last time, which involved possibly developing something on the site. The timeline was not given as to when they want to develop, but they did attend, so perhaps they're around tonight. This is a map of the proposal. The annexation, as you can see, the red arrow points to the nearly 8-acre parcel. To the north is the Mobus property, which is also in the county. We think there might be some water service agreements that the city might have out in that area. And so usually with water service agreements, it comes with a no protest agreement to annex into the city when the city requests that particular annexation. That would take more research on our part to figure out if that is the case, if you do decide to go that direction tonight. If you look out to the west, there's other properties. The Mallard family has property out in there under some corporate names as well as their names. That's borders Oak Harbor Road. And then there's a veterans facility to the south of the property, you can see here. So there's lots of ripe opportunities out there to annex property. One of our philosophies, I think, that's emerged recently has been simply annexing the property that's requested for annexation. Because once you get that annexation, it'll go faster for the developer, and it really is a stimulation for economic development. So if you get them in right now, you'll clean up the forested property. The police department felt like it could be a place where people would go hang out and cause trouble. So they would appreciate development there too once it becomes annexed. So as you can see, this is 100% owned by the property, and the city zoning classification would be industrial. Your decision tonight is to annex at your discretion. And so a yes vote will accept the area as proposed or as geographically modified, as you decide. So the other decision you make is whether to require the adoption of the zoning with the annexation, and also to share the city's indebtedness, the city's bonds. A no vote will say the creating parties have no right to accepting the annexation. In general, it increases the service demands for fire and for police services, and also there's impacts on our transportation system. For property-specific things that would happen out there, chances are there'd be infrastructure connections that would be made at some point. Access would be given to the road, and frontage improvements would be done. Back in 2016, the general plan was changed, and so this area is classified in the comp plan as industrial, and the property-specific zoning is industrial. Indebtedness, as we refer to that, that's the existing and future bonds that the city has, and it's shared by the city taxpayers. So the action tonight would be to conduct a meeting with the applicant, and it would be the next step, and to accept the annexation request as is, or modify the area. Now, I do want to disclose that as staff, we made an error in our staff report. We recommended going to the west 2 properties to include that area as well as this particular property. That was actually from a different staff report, and I'll own that. I'll fully take responsibility for that. The reality is our recommendation is just simply annex this particular property so that it won't slow down the applicant from moving forward. It will extend a finger out into the county areas, and eventually you get enough of those fingers, people will have a desire to annex, and we'll bring a sewer line up there at some point and generate more momentum for annexations. So please disregard our request to expand this annexation to the west. That was from the good annexation that you might remember that is still ongoing as they're continuing to work through the process of adding those 2 properties. So we think for economic development, this is the best recommendation we can make, and we are available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment in the audience about this annexation?
I have a comment.
Okay, state your name, please.
Hello, my name is Ashley Paul. I'm the office manager for Triple C Construction Services, and I'm here to represent Brad and Ashley Gisbell. They live here in town and own a local construction business called Triple C Construction. Knowing the city guidelines, because they're builders and we've done research and talked to others, we may have to let the property sell or sit as is because of the added costs that will come with annexing into the city. When purchasing this property, we purchased it under the assumption that we are under county guidelines and assumed that building would be under those guidelines as well. We made this assumption because all surrounding areas are county. Under this assumption, we have invested time, money into wetland surveys, proposed development plans, county pre-application meetings, and only after this pre-application meeting was it brought to our attention that we would have to go through this process first. During this waiting process, since December of last year is when we started this, we've lost a lot of money and interest for the building loans and the mortgage being in this holding pattern. Annexing into the city is not what we'd like to do. We would like to proceed with the county and don't want to hold off the retirement for Mr. Brad and Ashley Gisvold any longer. They purchased this as a retirement plan for them and something they could pass down to their children. So we've kind of just in this holding pattern as of right now. That's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Servadius.
Councilmember Weed. Everybody gets a new title. City Attorney Weed. If I just heard the citizen correctly, they do not want to annex. Do we need to vote no on the annexation request, or do we just take no action? And please, Miss Pure, I think it was, or Paul, I'm sorry, Ashley Paul, Miss Paul, if I misheard you, please speak up, but otherwise it sounds like you do not wish to be, the Gisvolds do not wish to be annexed at this time.
Thank you, Councilmember Servadius. First of all, I want to make sure we're all on the same page in terms of the process here. My understanding is that what's before you tonight is the 10% petition, the first step in the process where if the council did want to proceed, it would set the boundary for the annexation and determine what the proposed zoning would be and determine whether it would be required, the property would be required to accept its share of the city's bonded indebtedness. The council has complete discretion on whether or not to move the process forward. If you were to do so, the next step would be to have the petition signed, and you have 100% in this case. And if you receive 100%, it's just requires 60%, but in this case it'd be 100%. Then you would set it for a public hearing, and you could accept public comment. If you don't want to proceed and you don't want it to move forward to a public hearing, you can reject the annexation proposal tonight, and that would be the end of it, and that decision is not appealable. Does that answer your question?
Possibly. Let's say the Gisvolds were to change their mind. If we vote no and there's no appeal, there's no appeal. If we take no action, does this just die, or what happens to the annexation request?
I guess my opinion would be that if there's no action taken, the annexation proposal would die.
Can I interject here?
Go ahead, Mr. Oburn.
Yeah, just Grant can kind of help him out the history a little bit on the urban growth area. That this property was placed in the urban growth area, and that's what's bringing the annexation. Because when they try to develop the property, then the county tells them that the property's in the city, and then they come forward, and that's what's bringing them forward here. So if the city wanted to go forward with it, in order to develop it, they'd have to annex into the city per the urban growth area. And if you can help me kind of elaborate on that, and if our development service director wants to elaborate on that, that's my understanding what sparked them to come to the city and talk about possible annexing. If the city doesn't want them, then the city can let them build in the county, but then we lose an opportunity to expand our urban growth, expand our city limits within our urban growth area.
Well, if the property is in the city's urban growth area, that's the only circumstance under which the city is allowed to annex. If it were outside your urban growth area, the Growth Management Act does not allow you to annex. But it does not require you to annex just because it's in the urban growth area. It's still a discretionary decision on the city's part. But as Mr. Oborn, I think, at least implies, to get city services, including city utility services, you need to annex. So that's the chicken and egg issue for development. If you are seeking city utility service, and you're in the urban growth area, you need to annex as a condition of receiving such service.
Thank you, Mr. Weed. Do we know if the party understands that they, Ashley Paul sounded like that they didn't want to be part of the city because of taxes, so they wanted to build within the county. But if they are hoping to seek city utilities, then they would have to be in the city. Do we know if they understand that? Anyone? Mr. Cool?
Mayor Pro Tem Munns, I've never had a conversation with the person who called in. And so tonight is kind of a shock that she actually basically is withdrawing her application. And so I don't know what the formal process would be to withdraw, but we've never had a conversation about whether or not she understands that she needs city utilities in order to develop anything of any substantial size.
Councilman Servadius?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Seems like there's a fair amount of new recent information that's been presented tonight, and I would just suggest we take no action, allow staff to communicate with the applicant. If the applicant truly wants to stay in the county and develop to their standards, and they're aware of what that means, then I don't, it's not upon us to force someone to annex. So I don't think if it's not overly time sensitive, Mr. Cool, I would just encourage you to reach out to the applicant and make sure they're aware. If they want to proceed, please bring this forward. And Mr. Weed, if there's something we need to do to officially terminate the application, we can do that. Otherwise, I'm assuming no action probably does that, and at some point it just times out. Thank you.
Councilmember Mack's hand is raised.
Councilman Mack, please.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, I was about to say the exact same thing with Councilmember Servadius. In light of the new information with the phone call, I don't think we really need to take any action. And again, Mr. Cool needs to reach out and let's get some more information, whether we say yes or no, and go from there. So I just table it, and however the professional way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. It doesn't look like there's going to be any action on this, so right now this just sits, it lies. And there doesn't seem to be any further business. There is a closed session once we adjourn, but I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
A second. To adjourn.
Oh, I thought you were second.
No.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion, a second to adjourn. All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? All right, we are adjourned officially for this meeting, and we will go into